Hello guys, welcome back once again to another episode of Galley Stories, Stories of the Bering Sea and Beyond. I'm your host, Mark Kaler. And we're fortunate today, we have Tor Tollessen with us.
Right.
How are you doing today, Tor?
Very good.
Boy, I've been looking
So
forward.
far, I'm not sure later though.
I've been looking forward to this one for a while because I know you've got some really good stories. So let's start with the beginning. Where were you born and raised, and how did that go?
Yeah, of course I can't remember it, but I have it in the birth certificate. No, in Norway we don't have birth certificate. We have a baptismal certificate. Anyway, I was born in Norway in 1945, and on an island. And of course, it's off the coast of Norway, and it's a very historic island because the copper from that island was mined to was a partner with a French company, and that later became the Statue of Liberty. So the copper that covers Statue of Liberty are mined on that little island I'm called Karmøy.
What's the name of the island?
Karmøy. And the sound inside, prior to that, the historic way was when King Harald Hairfair, when he collected all the small kings under one kingdom, under his sword, so to speak, he settled there. Of course, in the early days, the Vikings, they could travel east and west. They had a so-called light stone or soapstone, whatever. They changed light, like a magnet type. But north and south, they had to follow land. So when they traded up north, they followed the shore side. And that's a big ocean outside, a very harsh ocean. So the sound inside that sound of that island and mainland was called Norveger, the road north, which later became Norway, the North Way.
Very, very
a lot of old history still there.
So born there, and
yeah, I was born there, yeah, and very little industry. That mining industry, that was a little town of itself, but other than that was fishing. Seafaring men, sailors and fishermen. And of course I think we made our first boat. My next door neighbor was Captain Sigg's father, Sverre Hansen, and his uncle Karl Johan. Sverre was older than me. So we made a kind of a canoe. Of course, he was bigger than me, so he didn't have time for it. So I ended up some boards we put together and a lot of tar and a lot of lead patches. So we were out paddling around as a 7-8-year-old before we started school.
In Norway?
In Norway, yeah.
And you built the boat yourselves?
Yeah. Well, kind of like if I had a picture now, everybody would laugh their head off, But we could go out and do a little fishing, and we grew up on a sandy beach. There was a lot of flatfish, flounders and stuff like that we could catch.
Now, did your dad, he made his living as a fisherman as well?
In them days, yes, he did. He did for probably first 20 years of his life. Then he became a contractor. He worked for the commune or municipality. He had a tractor and a truck. But in the early days, that was fishing. That was 90% of the people did fishing.
So you grew up around that, and
yeah.
that was the mainstay.
And the old mentality was a third world country. Right after the war, there was nothing there, and everybody worked hard. And they kind of treated you as they trained you hard. I remember I was in the funeral for my uncle, which anyway he died early in the 50s, and he was good to us, so because he had a farm, so we helped out and made a little extra money. So I thought it was sad, so I had a tear coming down. So my dad says, "What are you doing?" I says, "Well, my uncle, he died, your brother, Yeah, he said, "I know that, but you don't do that now. You wait till you come home, then you go in the bedroom or close the door, and then you cry. That you shouldn't show weakness,
right?
Because the harshness around it, they trained you basically to be tough,
yeah,
but not on feelings. There was a lot of love to be given. My dad, I don't think he yelled at me a few times, but if he just talked hard, I would straighten up till I was bigger than him. So a lot of respect for a parent, but never spanked.
You told me once also that it was shameful almost to be boastful or to be proud of.
Oh, that was terrible. That was terrible. Even if you had achieved something, having a good season, I don't know if it was superstition, but it was pride matter. Because there wasn't that much difference between the rich, and there was very few rich people. Mostly was common sense people, down to earth people, average people, you know. And if you had a good seasons, you know, you bragged about it. Everybody would know. No, nobody cared how good you were, how bad you were. Talking about it kind of put us down, kind of like. So
Right.
it was very traditional. I remember one time after I'd been to America, come back again. I and my mom worked at the kind of fish receiving plant, you know, and it was she was getting old then, and I had had a couple of good seasons in Alaska. So I said, I should. She was over 60 at least. She said, I should retire. I said, yeah, you should. She said, no, that's too much money. She says, Mom, I told her, don't you know you have a rich son? Teasingly, you know. Oh, she was so mad. She worked hard there. She refused for me to come down to see her again. She was going to have to talk like that.
Right.
Doesn't matter what I had or what we had. She was well off too at that time, you know. I mean, you know, better normal at least. But no, that's a no-no.
Things not to tease your mom about.
No, yeah, exactly.
So you said after you came back from America. So what? Give us that story. You know, that venture. What brought you over?
Well, I was good. I had good grade in school. I was good in school and good grade in school, and we went 7 days to school. 7 years. We started at 7 and was finished 14. And at 14, you were a grown man. You had to go out in the working life. You didn't have to go to school anymore. Some did. And we did 6 days a week. We only had Sunday off. At the end of 7 years, having a good grades, and all the teachers prodded me to go to continuous school, higher schools. And of course, at age 12, I think, 12 and a half, 13 years old, I got to, in the summertime, for 2 months, I got a half year going on in the fishing boat, trawler. And I got so seasick, you know, so I figured, I swear, boy, I'm going to get the job that has nothing to do with fishing. You know, that. And of course, I did summer job for 4 years, but I still got seasick. And
all 4 of those years?
All of, in the beginning. I you know, after the first week, you know, I got over it, you know, because I obviously stayed for 2 months. So I figured, okay, I'm gonna go be a shore side worker and electrical. I found a German generator, and we made kind of a light bulb in the cabin and stuff like that. So I loved electrical. So I went to electrical technical school, and I was going to be probably hydroelectric engineer, because that's the mountain. You can't get seasick up there, you know. That was my idea.
Right.
Anyway, so when I was going to go to school, my dad says, okay, yes, I would love you to go to school, but you have to work too. Because either rich people or lazy people go to school. That was the concept, you know.
Right.
So I had to prove to the neighbors that I wasn't afraid of work, you know, that I was a prima donna. So that worked. That's why I had to go fishing every summer. So at age 19, we couldn't get, you know, in Norway, you know, Norway's immigrant to America for 40-some years, which based things on immigration quotas after, was how much people come over. And only Ireland gave more people. Over 50% of Ireland came to America, but 40-some% of Norway came to America in them years, you know. So they had unlimited quota system in the modern area where I was. So all I needed a guy over here, guaranteed $300 or in some cases $500. Me, it was $300. You put up a guarantee to the state. If something went haywire with you, they sent you back.
Okay, so a little deposit for your return ticket, just in case.
That was standard law, and they changed that right after I got there in '66.
Who was your guy?
My guy was the same. I was a big shot in New Bedford. I came to New Bedford because I couldn't afford any other ticket. So New Bedford, Massachusetts. I landed in New York actually. So my dad told him I borrowed money from my grandmother for the ticket, and I had $100. We were supposed to have $100 when we landed, but I had 84 because I bought a ticket to the next airplane from Anchorage. From New York, which had just been named New York Kennedy Airport at that time, '65 June. And so I got a plane to Providence, Rhode Island, and then took a bus to New Bedford, because he was New Bedford Ship Supply was the one that guaranteed for me. He had guaranteed for many, and he was my dad's cousin. So my dad told me, once you get there, you go and face him, thank him, and then don't see him again. Don't be too bothered. If you have a problem, find a plank and paddle home. He said. don't be a bother.
Right. Okay.
So that was the honor system again. You
sure. Know? Well, that's missing today. That is missing today.
Actually, there is some good ones. I just had one that changed the furnace in my son's name, and he checked them around and he shook my hand. Okay, my son is paying for this thing. He said, no problem. You'll take a handshake for it. No problem. He said. He shook my hand and got hold of it, and awesome. And he liked it too. He's my age, so. Anyway, so I ended up in New York City, Kennedy Airport. I would be 20. September 7th. I came in June, and I sat there. It was a beautiful summer day, very very warm day. And sitting laughing at it. I've never seen so much diversified people. Because Norway was basically growing. I mean, right. there was like a third war hillbilly or in the fjord place, Mm-hmm. So then finally, one of the airline stewardesses came and had been on the plane, and she felt sorry for me and guided me a little bit, luckily. But there too, when I went to school, I had very good grades, but the first grade, but I realized when it come to a higher school, I wasn't quite as good as I thought I was. Mm-hmm. But I was charmful, I guess, or something. They gave me better grade than I deserved, probably. So I had to work harder. Anyway, back to the Kennedy Airport, and I got on a ticket at kind of 11 at night, and we landed around, I think, midnight, a little after midnight in Rhode Island, Providence. And there was no buses going till the morning, so I had to take a hotel. So I got out in the taxi line, and here's a young guy, and I wanted to ask how much, but he didn't say. No, I don't know that, how much it was into town. So I need to stay in a hotel, the cheapest. I only have so much money, and I need the cheapest place to go, because that's going to last me till I get a job, Mm-hmm. And he was a student, and I think it was something like $8 for taxi fare. Oh. And he charged me only $6. He said, so that's all, I have to pay for, because I'm just getting hourly rate, Anyway, and he got me to a hotel that was about $4 a night. And talking about World War
the taxi costs more than the hotel did.
The cheap hotel is a flyback, and it was so bad that there was no lock on the door. And I think it was clean sheet, but I'm not sure. But anyway, and lots of partying going on. So I had the suitcase I had was so bad that had one of the locks had gone down. So I had gotten a rope tie it together, and that come in handy because I could tie the door. Now nobody could get into me. Right. So I slept good till next morning. So I ended up in New Bedford the early morning around 9-10 o'clock, and I came into the New Bedford Ship Supply, which was Rasmussen was Rasmus Tønnesen was the owner and my guarantor. I went and thanked him, shook his hand, and I told my dad, I can't see you again until I got a job. I told him my dad told me so. So he laughed, oh yeah, I know your dad. He said, don't worry about it, Anyway, so I got in there, and then I saw a guy from the island, and they were buying gloves. They were going to leave at 1 o'clock. They bought, he was on a boat called the Viking Queen, and they were going to drive down to Virginia, or to Cape May or someplace down there, and the boat were fishing out of there, and they got into shore there, and they drove home for 3 days. They had to stay home for 4 days before they could go out again. The union rules over there. So I says, have you got a job? He said, no, I don't know, but the skipper's coming in, and he's a half owner. So here a little while longer, Coroness walked in.
Coroness?
Our Coroness here.
Yeah.
So I went up to him. I says, who are you? He says, well, I'm so-and-so, Tor Tollessen. And, oh, your mom's name's Agnes? They are neighbors. Yeah, I know your mom. He's the older of him. Yeah, we got a job. We have full house, but we need a shaka, half share. So you can come with us. We're leaving at 1 o'clock.
What did they need?
Shachka means kind of apprenticed, kind of greenhorn type of deal for half share. Or they give you, if the crew share got $1,000, they gave you $200-300 or something like that. You know, the crew took it. Of course, you can open up scallops. That's all you could, and it means you got paid by the scallops, the poundage that you open. So of course that would start there, and later. So I came to Seattle before Corey. And
was he operating that boat at the time?
Viking Queen. He came in '60. I come here to '66, and he took the boat in '68, I believe, and ran the boat. He got some contract up north with some research deal, and he brought the Viking Queen. The first scallop boat came from New Bedford around, but I wasn't on there then. But of course he went up to Seward, and they had 4 boats total. And later he got. In with Magny. Magny was one of the first crabbers here. He was a big boy crabber. His brother Magny, and he started working for him in the early days. So I always used to say, if it hadn't been for you, Corey, I only had $85, or $64, whatever it was. I'm talking so much now, I'm getting dizzy here. I think I better have a sip of red water.
Yeah, red water. Well, I really like hearing these old stories, and I want to get them recorded and down on tape. So when you were out doing scallops on the Viking Queen,
right?
And then so how many trips did you do? I mean, how long did that last? And then what eventually?
Normally, I made 2 trips there, and we that's a good story there too. Viking Queen was a highliner, so the biggest trip we ever I was on the first thing. So I got $500 as a shackle share, and that was more than some of the other boats got for shares, full shares. Because I was good luck and all of that stuff, and everybody was in good humor, so they paid me $500 for big trip. Yeah.
I just want to put it in context a little bit. $500. How many days were you out?
7 days.
7 days.
In 1965.
And you had $4 hotel rooms, $6 cab rides.
Right. I paid that first trip, paid for my trip to Norway. I could pay my grandmother back, and I got an apartment together with another guy, and I bought myself no, not the first trip. There was a jacket that guy cost $7, nylon, kind of like I would love to, but I couldn't afford it. I waited 2 more trips before I bought it. But $7 for beautiful, on top line, kind of jacket,
I noticed you pointed out that you paid your grandmother back right away.
Oh yeah, well, I sent the money back right away. Mm-hmm. But she started a bank book on me, and she never took it back. So when she died, she gave it back to me. That was a good investment. That was a good investment.
So several trips on there then?
Yes, and 2 trips on that one as a shotgun, and then I got a full share trip on another boat. But we were dredging outside Virginia, West Virginia there, and there was an old ammunition dump from the practice field for the Navy, U.S. Navy, and there was a lot of dumping ground for
munitions.
So Eddie Love was a partner. He was a mate with Corey, and he was also a partner on the Viking Queen. So I was up on my shift. We had shifts, 6 on and 6 off, around the clock, And so we could hear the radio says, "Hey, hold it, Eddie, the guy said, on the Snoopy, bought the Snoopy. It looks like we got some doggone mine stuff in the, oh no, it's a torpedo, is this, in the dredge. And the next time, it was boom, the whole friggin' thing blew up. Blew the whole boat.
It was still on the, it
was intact. It set it off once they got it out to the side.
It blew the boat?
Blew the boat. There was just sticks after it. I think there was it 11 or 12 guys on board, and 3 survived.
So there was 11 of you on board?
No, we were fine.
Okay.
We were just talking to the guy.
Talking to them. Okay.
His name was Snoopy, and the whole thing blew up. But he was talking to the skipper or the mate on Viking Queen, so we could hear this guy talking, and the next thing it blew. So wait a minute, I have to look at this thing. It looks like a torpedo in a mine or torpedo or something. So we rigged up light. I had to rig up light, and we went to look for survivals, of course, and we found parted arm. We found an arm, but we didn't take. We saw the people. There was 3 people that survived, I think, 2 or maybe 3, and they were laying on the whaleback. It was so warm, midsummer, So they, instead of going on the bunk, they were laying on the whaleback, and the whaleback blew off, so they were blown out of the sea.
And that's why they survived.
Yeah.
So you pulled 3 souls out of the water that day.
Yeah, and we didn't, We just, what we did, we were just done with a trip. So we were going in. So the brother of one of the guys that didn't survive, he came home with us. Excuse me, because they just came out. You had to stay 7 days out there to fish.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, we come in. Oh yeah, and Corey after this. So I always told him this: you saved my life. You're responsible. Remember, Corey? You gave me the job here. So I always gave him a bad time. And then, of course, he come here and got into boat himself, and I was fishing with him, and then did a lot of electrical. I did electrical to begin with for Lundy Electric. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so after I got Lundy Marine Electronic, and I got to sit in the big seat, then I had a visitor, one of those political big shot guy from Norway, and I was sitting in my office, and he came in. Well, what are you doing? I says, well, I'm just talking to so and so. Politician from the old countries, and yeah, he says, and by the way, he says, this is Corey Ness, and by that one he was a big shot here with Trident,
Mm-hmm.
this just a few years ago, and he gave me my first job in America. So the guy, so yeah, Corey says, I know I have given many good jobs, but I must say I haven't done many mistakes in America either. But there sits one of them.
Pointing at you.
But he'd love to do that because
sure.
I told him stories of you too.
Mm-hmm.
He was very stubborn many times. Yeah. Anyway, so we went in '66 in spring of '66. I came here and looking for a crab job. Of course, I got just still seasick and wasn't big money. And I got it accepted in one of the fancy technical schools in Norway. So I had a dream of making $10,000 and American car and go to school in style, get all the pretty girls,
Yeah, you bet.
with the car that my face couldn't give me.
Right.
Anyway, and of course I did get $10,000, and I did get the American car, and I went back to Norway, but it took me 4.5 years, so the school didn't hear.
What was the American car?
This is Chevelle Malibu, 1967 Chevelle Malibu.
Ooh. Would you like to have that now?
Yes, I was going to keep it, but I drove it once a year, 15, 20 years ago, and then somebody drove into my side one time, and they totaled it.
So 4 years crabbing?
No, I crabbed for 19 seasons.
No, but I mean, you did 4 years to get that 10,000 saved up to get your car.
Yeah, before. Yeah, so I came here and I couldn't get a job because I couldn't buy the jobs. In '66, a couple of my friends, they fished Kjell Noralf Langåker and Kjell Noralf Langåker and Kjell Walland. I think they worked for about 5, 6, 7 months of the year, and they made I think 35 or 40,000 in 1966.
Oof.
I was a journeyman electrician working here I think I made 13,000 with a lot of overtime for a whole year, over 2,000 hours,
Right.
So you can imagine the difference,
Yeah.
So it took me a couple of years before I got, actually 3 years before I got a king crab job. I got salmon job in the summertime.
What was the first boat?
The first was a little salmon boat, but the first job I had was Olympic, the crabber, the Olympic, the first Marco steel boat, 94 footer.
Oh,
John
94?
Yeah, John Chung. But where were we?
Your first crab boat.
Yes, but so I was doing electrical, and I become a lead man for Lundy quite often because I was going to go fishing.
So Lundy was already in existence.
Lundy was Lundy Electric only. Lundy Marine Electronic we started, me and a couple of my friends.
Mm-hmm.
But but for 10 years I worked there. Actually, I worked there 10 years, and I got fired 9 times. I never been fired.
Once a year.
And Olaf Lundy was owned it, and he later was knighted by the Norwegian king, old war sailor. But anyway, he first time I got the job, was going to go fishing. Then he gave me 15 cents raise.
So you didn't go fishing?
So I says, okay, here's the raise, don't go fishing. So Olaf, think of it, for 3 months I will be gone for 3 months. And I make 4 times the money I make here, the whole year, I make in 4 months, So I have to. I mean, it's, so well, pack your bag, he says. First time, that's what I meant. That's what I thought. So I did, and so I said, where are you going? He says, you fired me, didn't you? Yeah, but I changed my mind. And that repeated itself 9 years in a row,
Because you kept going fishing?
Yeah. And
so you're pretty much doing both. You were going fishing and then coming back.
But I fished, in those 19 seasons, I fished 3 full years. The rest I was just 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
I took the peak. I was lucky enough to, since I knew most of the boat because we did electrical. So on the boat when they built them, so I got.
So you were using that inside track of doing the electrical work to get on the right boat.
Jimmy Mack, he was the same way. He was a diesel mechanic.
When you say Jimmy Mack, you're talking about Jimmy McManus.
Yeah, right. He did the same way. I mean, he was an engineer, repair engineer, and then got the job of go.
I don't know if I've ever heard anybody call him Jimmy Mack. Was that what you guys all called him?
I don't know. McManison, I call him McManison first. SCN, you got an SCN to it.
Right.
But so Jimmy Mack is my name for him.
Got it. I thought maybe we found an old nickname for him here.
And few with me. No, it wasn't. Just easier to say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, but in I can't remember. Was it 77? I think it was around 77. Chuck Bundren ordered one of the boats that packed fish to Seasick, and we built it. And I did. I was the foreman for the electrical, so I did all the electrical. In them days, we had 12 volt, they had 32 volts, 110 volt AC, and 220 volt AC. So you had a little, and then you didn't have generation. Maybe if you have one generator, you had kind of like an alternator and maybe a belt-driven generator. So it was, electrical was complex in the early days. So, like I said, we did that, and Chuck went fishing, and he fished in Kodiak the first year, and he had Dungeness crab. And the second year, he leased the boat, I think. And anyway, in 69, he came back, and Gunnleif Locklenham was going to take the boat out west to Adak and fish Adak. That was the big fishing in Adak then, before the Bering Sea started.
That's, way down.
After Dutch and then Dutch Harbor and then Adak. So he went up with them, met them up there, and on the first trip out, they took in the windows, and everything went black,
They took waves in and just busted all the windows.
Yeah, and
took
then
out
there
the
was
electronics
a part of yes, exactly, and electrical. So Chuck called Olaf, and I got the job to go to Adak and fix this thing.
From Seattle?
From Seattle. They flew me up. And of course I wasn't a citizen at the time, so they had a hard time getting me because there was a base in Adak, so you know.
Oh yeah, military base was active
right,
then.
Right.
Yeah.
So I got up there, and then of course all the crew flew home. Chuck was the only one left. He met me at the airport. So of course there was no taxi to be had. But Martin Bakken, he was a captain on the Viceroy, which at this time was in process of being sold to the Viceroy to the cigarette company. So Chuck had, he had. It was very surprising. He had a big checkbook, I remember, on his belly, one of those 4-6 gang, or 3-4, yeah. And then there was a big bulge there. What's that? He said. Oh, he says that's a big Magna Revolver, some kind of a gun. If one doesn't work, the other one will. Teasingly.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we got Martin back into drive us to Finger Bay, but she was tied up to a barge, and in order to get all the stuff that was flying in, because new equipment was needed. Everything was wet, everything was not working.
The whole wheelhouse.
Whole wheelhouse and part of the engine room. They flooded the pilot house and the galley below and down to the engine room. So we got Martin to pick up the stuff for us. Everybody helped each other in them days more than they did now. versus I was going to help fixing one of the generators on the Viceroy, so to cut into that, and they showed movie every Friday, so we were invited to go to a movie on Viceroy, me and Chuck. So Captain Thompson was on the window. Says, "Where you guys going on the Friday night?" "So we're gonna go see the movie." "Yeah, you are." He said, "Not him." So Chuck didn't get to.
Chuck didn't get to.
No, well, I think he got to go, but
He was teasing.
anyway, a year later, he ran the doggone boat. He took it. 2 years later, whatever. So when we were finished, it took us a few weeks, and he was selling the boat. And he did sell the boat after we cleaned it up, and he got going and dried off, took it down here. And when we were finished, about 3 weeks, I was up there, and I had to cook for myself. We had to, there was nothing there, and Chuck went home too for a little while. Anyway, when the new owner of the Viceroy, or the new company, came up, there was no room for them. So I told Martin, says, why not to Seasick? Everything is, stateroom is fine, and everything is hunky-dory. So he gave his stateroom to this new big shot, and then Mike Jacobson was part owner. Him and Martin Beckton came over to Seasick, and that's where he met Chuck Bundard. He had a bottle under his neck, and I think that's when the plan started with a catch a processor.
Mm-hmm.
So when we were finished, then he had on the way in, after they had either on the way out or in, I can't remember, but they had set about a dozen or 20 pots right outside Finger Bay. So when we were finished, me and him was going to go out and take these. And I'd never been on never held a crab pot in my life. So Chuck was the one that showed me how to.
Just you and him on the boat?
Just me and him, and
how did that work?
Well, that's I never knew how. I was a fisherman. I called him a hillbilly. I'm a flatlander hillbilly, and he's a real hillbilly. But anyway, so he got up to the pot. I got a hook on it, and then he come down and helped me. Stood in the winch, So I was the pendulum. I took care of the pot, steered the pot in, and he was in the operation. So he actually was the first crab pot I was to come to think about it now. He was
with Chuck.
He was with Chuck. I better tell him that. Remind him of that. Yeah. So anyway, I flew down to Seattle again, and he went on and sold the boat and started working for Mike Jacobson, and went to school and got his papers. Mm-hmm. Next year I saw him. He was captain on the Viceroy, and I was engineer with John Chung on the Olympic. So, of course, there's a few stories there too. There was two different kind of guys, but they actually were partners for some time, those two.
I want to capture your story, though. So where did you go from here?
From here
when you got back to Seattle after
Oh, no, I always went back to Lundy.
Always back to Lundy?
Always back to Lundy. Mm-hmm. And I was there 10 years, and by that time I become the foreman and so forth, Mm-hmm. But the ritual of being fired still went on.
Sure.
But I got the job. I was.
Did you have any when you were up there crabbing? Because you crabbed 19 seasons.
Yeah.
You had to have some times when you were really scared. I mean, I know that you were raised tough.
Oh yes. So.
Do you remember the first time you were truly
I think the
scared?
reason most Nordic fishermen they might want to be tough, but they're a religious background, because once you're at sea and you know how small you become, mm-hmm. and there's a couple 3 times I didn't think I would come back really. So faith is important, it's praying. There's a lot of saying here. I pray for you, and most people some do, but I don't know how much they concentrate on it. But
sure.
But I prayed for to get back home.
There's been some times when you didn't know if you were going to make it back.
Yeah,
quite a few times. Do you mind sharing one of your stories with us, or?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, one that wasn't a worst story, but we almost lost a guy. That was on the Northern Aurora with Magni Ness. So it was a big boat, it was a 155-footer, and then Magni was tough to begin with, so he was always had a highliner and always fished, and when everybody else didn't fish, he fished. And so it was blowing pretty good, I would say 50 maybe. It was a big. And Bering Sea isn't that bad if you're not on the edge, and in the passes, steady wind. So, but any now and then you get a queer one, coming sideways and all over the place. So, at that time I was in the engine room, and Betty Ness was cook on board, Magnus' sister. And all of a sudden I felt the boat really took a heave to the side, and she started screaming, and I came upstairs. Oh, Sigmund! The boat waved on the Northern Aurora. It's a full deck above the deck, because there's a processor all the way along. So it's probably about 10, 12 feet, 14 feet from the waterline up to the deck. So she had taken, there was 3 guys on deck, and Sigmund Ingebrigtsen was one of them. They took him on the starboard side, lifted him over to the port side and overboard.
So Sigmund went over.
Sigmund went over, and in the middle of the night, floodlights of course, and so Magni, he got the boat back, and we saw him. For some reason he didn't. He had oilskin on, no float, no floating device, no nothing.
Did anybody wear much PFDs back then?
No, not to my knowledge. And I think we had. I'm not sure if it was before the survival suit. I'm not sure. I think we may have survival suit, but nobody was used to having it and stuff, so nobody was thinking of it if we had them.
And what season was this?
That was in the fall of when was that? There was 79.
So the water was
10 years after I came. That was 34, 5 degrees. So normally, 10, 15 minutes you will pass out. And Sigmund was out there for probably half an hour.
By the time you got turned around,
he was passed out.
Oh yeah.
But there must have been water in his oilskins, because we always had a belt on, so that floated him. He was dipping in the water. And anyway, Magni went over the boat to the side, and everybody threw bag over to him and stuff. But of course, you see, he was out. So we had no other choice, So we had a life ring. So I put the life ring on me and gave the other end to Otto Holgersen, who was about 190. He was about 6'8" or something like that, big, strong guy, Magnus. Hang on to him, don't ever give up on it, And I jumped, and of course it snarled up a little bit. So when I jumped, I slipped right over. He held on, So I slipped right through. It was up there, and I was out the ring.
So you're right.
That was the first mistake,
right?
But I was cold then, so I was out. And we got out to him. And as I got there, everything is adrenaline, so you can't remember it so clearly. But anyway, the minute I got to him, he sunk down. The wave come over, and then he dipped down. So he said, "Shit, all this for nothing," So I turned around, all of a sudden he popped up right in front of my nose, just like that. So talking about higher power. But anyway, so we got him back to the side of the boat, and then they threw a line to us, and I was gonna. But by that time I'd been in there about 10 minutes. I was so slow motion. I had no power left or nothing. So of course I couldn't tie the knot. So they hauled him up, and they hauled him halfway up there, and then they slipped. He slipped out of the rope and then come down. The boat was laying in the waves, and it slid down the side of the boat. And we had big keel it was a chime, so there was chime steel keels on the side of the boat. So he fell underneath that, and the boat rolled over it. So I said, "Oh Jesus, no way! Yeah. He's probably coming up on the other side." So by that time I was panicking for myself. I wanted up on it. I had no strength left.
You can't even. Yeah.
So when the boat rolled over again, all of a sudden he popped up right in front of me again. Right in front of me. I didn't even turn. I had turned already, and he popped up right in front of my nose. So that time, I kind of wrapped and just stuck. I didn't tie anything, just wrapped him around by himself, And they hauled him up, and they put a ladder over the side. And I was going to climb up. I couldn't climb up the friggin' ladder. I could not. In that time, I could hang after a hook thing, one arm, So I stuck my arms on the last rung, And every time the boat laying over, it was hanging on, shocking up, But I was relaxed, so I didn't break anything. And they come and got me up too. And Sigmund was out, we thought it was gone. But one guy, Knudsen, he was, I think he was a mate on board, he said he put a little mirror up there. No, he's alive. So they put him in a bunk and everybody crawled, rotate body temperature and heaters on him. And the next day he was fishing again.
You say crawled, rotated?
Yeah, in the bunk. We put him into bunk, took his clothes off, and we had girls on there, so no guys wanted to go and lay body temperature with him, but they did. We rotate, so the girls, everybody put two bodies on either side of him to heat him up body temperature. And
so you guys all took turns.
Yeah, not me. I was too cold. They didn't need me
not
there.
you, but the crew.
The crew did.
Took turns.
2, 3. I don't know how many did, because by that time I went in the shower.
But rotation of skin-to-skin contact to bring him back.
Exactly. And heaters on them, and a blanket, had to open up for heaters and, two heaters, window heaters.
What an amazing story.
Yeah. That's
how
unbelievable.
Scary.
Normally, I talked to a doctor later, and normally in that body temperature, around 10, 12 minutes, you lose your power.
Well, you
and
felt
I know
it.
Yeah, I know it. And I didn't feel it in my head, but I felt it in my strength. I had no strength. And he was out there for over 20 minutes. I'm sure it's in the logbook someplace how long, but so he was completely gone.
And at that time, in today's day and age, we have to do drills before we even leave the dock.
Yeah, I know.
In that time, were you doing drills? Did
No,
guys know
no drills. Drills were not to fall overboard.
Don't fall overboard.
Don't fall overboard. But on the same token, the difference then, fishermen was 12 months of their operation. They were commercial fishermen. They were experienced. There was there a greenhorn on board. And we were 3 guys on deck in most places, and 4 sometimes, But then there was a helper maybe. But they were all experienced people. That was a 12 months a year operation. Mm-hmm. Some people stayed 2-3 years at the time.
It wasn't seasonal. It was
it wasn't seasonal. It was all the time. And it wasn't as hectic. There was still total quota. But there was times, for example, in my beginning, if we operated from 6 in the morning to about 8-10, we fished probably around 18 hours a day, and then you relax good. I have a good story about Magni too. I think we operated around 70 some hours in one stretch on the Ocean Leader, Corey's brother. Mm-hmm. And normally we could haul probably 12, 14, 10 to 15 pots an hour on a regular basis. 12 was a good average. And we could do that for 18 hours straight. Then slept for 3-4 hours and cleaned up a little bit, And we could do that for a week to fill it up. So we started, it was the end of the season. We started, and about 30 hours in, Magni came out on deck. Hey boys, you did good now. He said, we hauled 4 hours the last hour, 4 pots the last hour. So I said, 4 pots? Normally we do 14, say, or 12, 15. So now to come out, Tor, go up and sing to him, his brother-in-law, the guy, because to kind of get him off the track, No, I can't sing now, but I can go up. So I went up up on deck, up in Paradise. I said, Magni, if we hauled 4 hours and we were doing as best we could, if we stopped for 3 hours like we normally do, that's 12 pots. That's 3 hours working. That the 4th hours. The 4th hour we were just where we left, and we had slept, because we will get up to 12 pots an hour again. So it says, and 2 hours we had of the game.
Right.
Yeah, he says, don't you think I know it? But I drank so much coffee I can't sleep.
So you're going to keep working.
He couldn't stand to listen there and just and not work,
Yeah, I know you've got so many amazing stories up there. I think what we're going to have to do is have you come back again if you'd be willing to.
Well, I got lots of more stories. Yeah.
I think we are out of time, Tor.
Okay,
but I cannot thank you enough for coming today. I wish I could just go right on into another episode, because what a great recording.
As long as you know which one story I told.
So Tor, thanks again for coming today.
You bet.
And guys, this has been another episode of Galley Stories, and tune in next time. We'll see you soon.